Hi, Virgo. Hmm. Sit with this for a second. The title caught you not because you're chasing money, because something in your gut recognized a frequency you've been waiting for, a hum you've been hearing in the quiet hours when the noise of the day falls away and you're left with just you and that persistent, quiet knowing that your relationship with resources is about to shift. Not because you manifested it through gritted teeth, because you stopped pushing, you stopped begging, you stopped acting like your survival depended on convincing the universe you were worthy. And in that stopping, you made room for something to move toward you without having to shove past all your defenses. Let's drop into the actual feel of this, not the fantasy of sudden riches, the texture of a life where the constant calculation stops, where you don't open your banking app with a clenched jaw, where you don't map out the month in terms of what you can't do, where the word enough stops being a moving target and becomes a place you actually live. That shift is not about a number, it's about a nervous system, yours. And something is happening to your nervous system right now. It's unwinding from a tension that has been its default setting for so long. You forgot you were even holding it. That unwinding is the real event. The money is just the evidence. You've been in a particular kind of financial weather for a stretch, the kind where the forecast is always the same, gray, uncertain, just enough to get by, but never enough to breathe. That weather wasn't punishment, it was pressure. Pressure that was doing something specific. It was teaching you to find ground that wasn't tied to your balance. It was forcing you to locate your sense of security somewhere deeper than your wallet. That lesson, hard as it was, has taken root. You don't need the money to feel safe anymore. You need the money to express the safety you've already found. That's the inversion. That's the threshold you've crossed without even realizing it. Now, what's coming? Not a lottery ticket, not a distant inheritance, something more structural, a convergence, the kind that happens when multiple channels that were blocked or delayed or rerouted suddenly clear at the same time. You'll recognize it by its texture, not a single windfall that feels like a fluke. A series of events, opportunities, resolutions that together form a new baseline. A job that pays what you're actually worth. A debt that gets cleared in a way you didn't anticipate. A door that opens because someone remembered you at the right moment. A piece of the puzzle you didn't even know was missing, sliding into place. When these things happen in sequence, they don't feel like luck. They feel like gravity. Like something that was always meant to catch up with you finally did. The shock won't be the amount. The shock will be the ease. After so many years of force, of pushing, of making things happen through sheer will, you'll experience something that simply arrives without you having to bleed for it, without the familiar knot in your stomach, without the voice that says this is too good to last. That ease is going to land in your system like a foreign language at first. You won't trust it. You'll wait for the other shoe. But the other shoe doesn't come because this isn't a trick, it's a recalibration. Your external life finally catching up to the internal work you've been doing in the dark. Let's talk about that work, the invisible architecture, the nights you sat with your anxiety instead of numbing it, the choices to invest in yourself when it looked irresponsible on paper, the times you said no to something that would have paid but would have cost you your peace. The steady, unglamorous practice of showing up for your own life even when the bank account said you shouldn't bother, that work has been accumulating, not in the visible realm, not yet, but in the realm of frequency. You have been tuning yourself note by note to a different station, a station that broadcasts abundance, not scarcity. And now the signal is coming through clear enough to translate into your material world. This is where the instruction to get your bags ready becomes interesting, not as a literal packing list, as a posture, a stance, the stance of someone who knows something is coming and is preparing, not by grabbing but by opening the hands that have been clenched around what little you had, opening the calendar that was crammed with survival tasks, opening the heart that learned to expect disappointment. That opening is the real preparation. Because if you meet this influx with the same clenched posture you've used to survive scarcity, you'll create a new kind of tension. The tension of holding on too tight. The tension of waiting for it to disappear. The posture of receiving is open, relaxed, curious. Willing to let the money move through your life without needing to control its every stop. You know what's interesting about people who experience sudden financial shifts? The ones who keep it are the ones who treat it not as a destination but as a current. They let it flow. They invest, yes. They save, yes. But they also let it circulate. They let it become a tool for their own expansion and for the expansion of others. The ones who lose it are the ones who treat it as a thing to be locked away, guarded, hoarded. The energy of hoarding is the energy of scarcity dressed in different clothes. The energy of circulation is the energy of abundance. Your job in this moment is to become a circulatory system, not a vault. To let what comes move through you, nourish you, and then move outward again to nourish what matters to you. That's how it grows. That's how it stays. Now, the shock factor, it will feel shocking because you've become accustomed to a certain ceiling, a limit you internalized so long ago you don't even remember setting it. That ceiling is about to be raised, not gently, perhaps, with a jolt, the kind of jolt that makes you look around and say, wait, this is my life now? And the answer is, yes, this is your life now. Not because you finally got lucky, because you finally got out of your own way, because you stopped filtering every opportunity through the lens of what you thought you deserved, because you let yourself want fully, without the immediate reflex of self-correction. Let's go deeper into what you've been carrying. There's a specific weight to the kind of financial struggle that asks you to be creative, to be resilient, to find dignity in having little. That weight has made you strong. But strength, when it's held too long, becomes armor. And armor, while it protects, also prevents you from feeling what it's like to be held. The money that's coming is not just for paying bills. It's for removing the armor, for letting you feel for the first time in maybe forever what it's like to not have to fight for your place in the world, to rest in the simple fact that you are supported not by luck, by the accumulation of your own choices, your own integrity, your own refusal to become bitter when the world gave you reasons to. This shift is also about the people you've been carrying, the ones you've been holding financially, emotionally, energetically, the ones who leaned on you because you were the one who made things work As your own resources expand, you get to choose. You get to choose who you carry forward with you and who you release. Not from cruelty, from discernment. The expansion of your own life will naturally, inevitably, leave behind the dynamics that were only held together by your scarcity. That's not loss, that's filtration. The people who are meant to be in your life when you're thriving are not always the same people who were there when you were surviving. That truth is uncomfortable. It's also liberating. There's a specific energy around what's coming that has to do with timing, not a date, a readiness, the readiness of the channels you've been clearing, the readiness of the people and institutions and opportunities that have been waiting for the conditions to be right. Readiness is not passive. It's the alignment of 1,000 small factors that you've been tending without knowing you were tending them. The conversation you had 6 months ago that planted a seed. The skill you learned when you didn't know why it would matter. The relationship you maintained when it would have been easier to let it fade. These are the threads that are now being pulled together into a rope you can climb. You might be noticing the previews already. A piece of mail that arrives on the right day. A call from someone you haven't heard from in years. A solution to a problem you'd given up on solving. These are not coincidences. They're the first drops of a downpour. They're the universe testing your openness. Are you still so armored that you'll dismiss them? Or can you let them land, let them mean something, let them be the first evidence of a new pattern? The way you receive these previews determines the scale of what follows. Receive them with suspicion, and the channel narrows. Receive them with wonder, with gratitude, with the simple acknowledgement that something is shifting and the channel widens. This is not magic. It's the physics of attention. What you focus on expands. What you dismiss contracts. So how do you meet this moment? Not by checking your bank account obsessively. Not by calculating how much you need to feel safe. By breathing. By letting your shoulders drop. By taking a walk and noticing that the world, which has felt so heavy, feels lighter today. By letting yourself want without immediately attaching a plan to make it happen. By trusting that the same force that turned winter into spring knows when it's time for your own seasons to shift. You don't have to force the thaw. You just have to stop pretending you're still frozen. The bags you're getting ready are not literal. They're the containers of your own readiness, your willingness to be surprised, your willingness to be supported, your willingness to let the old story of struggle fade into the background where it belongs. That willingness has been building in you, brick by brick, through every moment you chose hope over resignation. And now, it's solid enough to hold what's coming. Not because you're special, because you're ready. And readiness is the only requirement for receiving. When the shift fully arrives, when you're standing on the other side of it looking back, you'll see something clearly. You'll see that the waiting was not wasted, that the hard years were not punishment, that every closed door, every empty account, every moment of wondering how you'd make it through was not a test you failed, but a teacher you didn't recognize. You'll see that you were being prepared for a life that could hold more, that the container had to be strengthened before it could be filled, and that the strengthening happened in the only way it could happen, through the slow unglamorous, often heartbreaking work of becoming someone who could carry abundance without it crushing them. That's who you are now. Not someone who needs the money to feel whole. Someone who is whole and who is about to have the means to express that wholeness in the world. The money is not your identity. It's your instrument. Play it well. Let it make music that matters. Let it create space for others. Let it fund the dreams you tucked away when you couldn't afford to dream. Let it be the proof you needed that the universe, for all its indifference, is not cruel. That it keeps accounts. That it rewards persistence, not because it's keeping score, but because persistence is the only thing that eventually, inevitably, changes the conditions. So, get ready. Not by rushing, by resting, by letting the anticipation be sweet instead of anxious, by trusting that what's coming is not too big for you. It's exactly the right size for the person you've become. That person is not the same one who started this journey. That person has been forged in fire, shaped by water, polished by time. That person knows that money is just one form of wealth, and that the real wealth is the capacity to receive without grasping, to give without depleting, to rest in the knowledge that enough is not a number but a feeling. That feeling is already yours. The number is just catching up. I don't sell futures, I build architects. No predictions, just the raw truth for the tough ones. Stay magic, stay in the now.